Welcome, 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 everyone, to this episode of Agency Life. You're going to recognize the voice, Steve Brown from ROI Online. We recorded a podcast interview with him a few weeks ago. And at the end of the podcast, he said he had an idea for me. And I am going to hand over to Steve right now to explain what that idea is.
So I recognize, Clodagh, thank you for having me, and I'm excited to be here. And so this is a bit of a takeover. In the movies, sometimes that you'll have the revolutionary force. They'll run in and take over the radio station and take over the channel to push their message. But in this case, this is more about, we listen to you all the time. We learn about other agencies. And so you've been leading us. Here's the thing, the valuable thing about Clodagh is that she finds people that she wants to introduce to us because they offer valuable insights. And you think about the relationships that you have in your life, and there's always this person that goes, hey, I want to introduce you to someone. And it makes you feel special, doesn't it? And
Really
so
does.
Clodagh does that all the time for us. And I was just thinking, how about we get to ask Clodagh about herself on her podcast? So Clodagh was brave to let Steve come in and hijack the podcast. But Clodagh, thank you for being on your podcast and for being courageous and letting us talk to you and ask you questions.
Incredible. Thank you. Well, I have some amazing, amazing guests on the show, and they're just spectacular. And I really value the idea because I thought it was a really good one. And Steve, you've probably got one of the best voices I've heard in a long time
Oh,
for
shucks.
podcasting and radio. See, I'm sweet talking already, so you don't
Thank you.
interrogate me.
Okay, I'm going to cross off these hard questions now. So let's start
Yes.
with the first one, okay? So we would love to know more about your story and how you got to be where you are today. Living in the west of Ireland and being a business coach. How did this come about?
Yeah, for a business coach for digital agency owners, it's like this job certainly did not exist when I was having a conversation with the career guidance counselor in my secondary school when I would have been 15, 16. So I grew up here. My dad's from Sligo. He's an entrepreneur, businessman in the local community. My mom is from the south of Ireland, a place called Cork. And I was born in Dublin. And then my dad moved here when I was 2. And I grew up in it's the most magical, beautiful, creative, stunning scenery. It's got mountains and beaches, and it's really magical. And yeah, I grew up here, but of course, I was a little bit rebellious. And as soon as I turned 19, I was like, let me out of here. I'm going to go. I started a business degree, but I never finished it. I just wanted to go to the big city, to Dublin, to work. So my career's gone through stages of, I used to work for Dell. I was in selling computer hardware, selling computers. I started there. I worked for them in Ireland, in the UK, and also in Australia. They moved me around, and that was probably some of the best learning about business. They're a fantastic organization, and they gave me really good skills in business. Then I did about 6 years in Sony and worked there understanding sales and marketing alignment and how the two things talk, and consumer electronics at the time where Walkman was declining and Apple iPod was on the rise.
Right.
And then I actually left Sony, and I kind of did a few jobs in Australia, but I gravitated towards teaching and consulting social media. I was one of the first people on Facebook, one of the first people on LinkedIn. I have a very sort of exploratory view of technology. I will download an app and I'll play with it, or I'll download the website app and I'll test it. I might not post anything. And I just informally started doing consulting, sales marketing for small businesses, friends. My business kind of happened. But then in 2012, it would have been, I was I was going to turn 40 the next year. Had a relationship that didn't work out. I kind of was sitting in Australia going, what's for me now? I'm going to turn 40 next year. And I have this business and I'm in technology, but I didn't feel like Australia was the place to be for technology. I could feel that Ireland, head of Google was there for EMEA, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of the big tech companies were opening up and establishing. Um, and HubSpot was as well. So
Exactly.
I kind of made the decision it's time to go home. It's time to get back with my family, get settled, and plan the next phase of my life. So I closed the agency down. I opened it up again, doing some consulting work to kind of settle myself back into Ireland. And then HubSpot asked me to join their channel consulting team. And in that role, I was educating agencies about how to use their software,
Right.
which was a great conversation, how to use it for themselves, how to use it for their clients. But after 6 months, I kind of was getting deeper into these relationships with the clients and answering questions like, is my business profitable? They were, how do we hire? What packages should we do? So the conversation started to steer to more of a, how do I run my business? And I realized at that point, I went, there's a big opportunity here, that these agencies, they're like super passionate, creative, charismatic, wonderful people. They can sell, they can make websites, they can do great marketing campaigns. But when it comes to running a professional services business, I found a lot of agencies were struggling and there was no help or advice for them. So back in, it would have been, I was like 4 years at HubSpot, and I was doing some of this business consulting through the partner program, kind of like a little bit sort of dipping into it. But then the investors who were putting together Avidly, which is the largest inbound marketing agency in the Nordics, they came knocking on the door and said, hey, you know that stuff you do, would you like to do it with us over here as part of the Growit consulting group? So I took the opportunity, and for the last 3 years I've been working with agencies, help them to create proper business structures and have a healthy, happy team.
I have a CAM. I'm a HubSpot partner agency as well. But my CAM, not complaining about you, they've changed several times actually, but they to be that engaged, to listen and have a connection to where you're giving advice or having other conversations along just what HubSpot required of you, that's unusual.
Yeah.
Why do you think? Because you probably had a really good workload, didn't you?
Yeah, so when I joined HubSpot, because of my Australian connections, they gave me the Australian Book of Business along with a Cam, the sales guy, Mads, and he eventually moved to Australia. So he would bring on the agencies and I would onboard them into the software. I think the difference is there, I was employee number 45 in Dublin, something around that mark. But when I joined the company, I had just turned 40, or just about to, I was very close to. The average age in HubSpot was 25. So, and nobody had ever run a digital marketing agency. So I think this is the kind of thing with lots of software companies. Most of them rely on agencies. They need the partnership, but they've never run a professional services business
So
themselves.
true.
So I think for me, I'm a little bit older, a little bit, I've had a couple of businesses under my belt. I also knew the practicalities of sometimes how the advice we were giving would actually work in an agency.
Right.
So I would test a lot of things and just question them, and maybe just sort of work them around in a different way. I think that was the difference. And look, I think empathy's got a huge amount to it, because I know that it's not the easiest job in the world. And in fact, there's days that you wish you could give the agency away,
Right.
but you can't.
No.
And it can be very dark, and it can be very, it can be difficult, because not a lot of people around understand. Only other digital agency owners really kind of get it. Your family sort of struggles, relatives, kids, wives, husbands, people might not truly understand what you're doing. And it can be quite lonely. So I have a lot of empathy and a lot of respect, and just I feel for agency owners, and I think that's where I just wanted to help them.
Yeah, I can relate with that because it's not that your family doesn't want to relate or your employees or your friends, but it, unless they've been through that experience, it doesn't make sense. And it's something that one day I was able to talk to some other agency owners, and I realized I wasn't crazy, that
Right.
these experiences, they were having them too. So
Yeah.
you mean I'm normal?
Yes. Yeah. And isn't that a great feeling? And
Yeah.
to know that, and that's really one of the reasons the podcast was born out of that, because I could hear a lot of rah rah rah. We've won an award. We've got this. We're crushing. We're crushing it. We're smashing goals. But I wasn't hearing a lot of, I've had a dark day, or I've made some huge mistakes in my agency, and this is how I got out of it.
Yeah.
I wasn't hearing real stories, and so that's why agency life was
Mhm.
given birth.
One of the things that helped me start to realize I, everyone brings a unique perspective or value to what they do. But I was recognizing a theme that people would say different things, but the theme would be similar. What's the theme that you hear that's really common, like the higher thing or plea that you hear them asking for that really resonate or you recognized and you help with?
So the big, huge revelation that I understood, actually when I left HubSpot and I started working individually with agencies, was, and it's at the very beginning of my book, A Happy, Healthy Digital Agency, is it's this realization that an entrepreneur creates a business and they're extremely driven, focused, like motivated. They'll work all day, night, and weekend to get this business off the ground. And through hell or high water, they will get it off the ground. Then they start to employ people. They attract a certain type of person who's up for the fight, and they're in for that. So maybe the first 3 or 4 people that an agency employs, an owner employs, they're usually quite similar to the agency owner.
Hmm.
They're a little bit on the entrepreneurial side, but not so much that they don't want to. They don't want to do it themselves. They actually want to be part of something. But the first kind of core team, as the agency grows, sometimes those people in the beginning haven't evolved and haven't grown with the agency. And the new employees that come in can see sort of maybe some bad behaviors or maybe lack of processes. And as the agency grows, what needs to happen is all the things that an entrepreneur doesn't like: processes, structure, forms to be filled in for holidays, benefits. How do I get a bonus? What's my training plan? What's my career plan? What's my promotion path? Every single thing that the agency was going to need after about 10, 15 employees, the people in the business need that. The core team that the agency owner found, the first 3 or 4 employees, they're like, no, we don't need that. We're grand the way we are, because they don't want to be measured the way the new employees are. And the agency owner has this massive realization that they're like, I don't know what to do with all these people. And these people are employees, and the entrepreneur has a totally different mindset. So that is the first place I start, is fixing, giving the employees what they need, all the stuff that the entrepreneur doesn't. Usually the first hire is a people manager, someone to manage and give the people on the team the one-on-one time, the empathy, the understanding, the capacity planning, the training plans, all the things that the agency owner has no interest in. I've yet to meet an agency owner that loves HR.
Well, you're it gave me goosebumps. You're explaining the whole journey.
Right?
It's so true. You've got those folks that come along and they'll fight with
Mm-hmm.
you through anything, and nothing needs to be perfect. But over time, you need people start asking you these other questions, and you feel like a goofball because, well, I don't know. We just I think you fill out this form here, and
Yeah.
it's you can get you can ski out out of the lines there and crash pretty easy.
Yeah. And a lot of times as well, agency owners always have this fabulous story about why they set up the business or how it came about. Sometimes, in a lot of instances, it's because they're running away from something. They were getting away from the man, the corporate job, the failed business. They have this very forward focused and very anti-establishment. What they want to build can be
Mm-hmm.
the total opposite of corporate. And I'm not saying we're going to set up this big boring company, but
But
because they kind of like, oh, I like to do what I like to do, and I don't want, a stuffy business. I want to create this wonderful creative business. They don't want to do any processes, procedures, forms, structure, because that reminds them of the thing that they left or what they went away from, and they feel stifled. But what I explain is, actually, if we can give everyone in the company structure, you're actually going to have a lot more time to have a lot more fun.
so so you got inspired, you saw this need. There was probably some event that made you just step out and do it. And that's pretty scary for someone to do that. But talk to me about maybe the first example to where you got to apply your insights and how that made you feel.
Um, well, creating the book was the first part, to actually write down, what I was seeing and what I was observing, and actually give people a tool set. And it's not millions of books, but it's 500 right now on
Hmm.
Audible. And like, I'm really happy with that, because that means 500 people, are hopefully reading and getting benefit. And I get messages all the time. I think it would have been the first agency when I started working, pretty much day one. I learned more in day one, working with Joachim Fagerbach, who's our like Mr. Spreadsheet, our finance guy. I learned more in that day than I had in a couple of years in HubSpot about how a professional services business works. Time equals money, all of that side of things, about how to be a profitable business. And we took that then, working with, we joined together 3 agencies into one, Inbound Norway, and Do Idea in Sweden, and Capcom in Denmark. And from day one, I think the first place I went was, I was actually up in Norway, and we just started working immediately with these agencies to get some processes in place, look at their financials, look at their structure, and to see people who had struggled realize, okay, okay, things are better. I was lucky enough to experience that day one, which was incredible, and it's still happening every day now. Couples I work with, or clients I work with, who have been extremely stressed, maybe sleepless nights, maybe having arguments with their spouse. There's always a way, and even the first conversation I have, I say, look, you're not alone. It's okay. All of this is fixable. And even then you can see them starting to relax. So from the first interaction, there's yet to be a major problem that I've heard of, or any problem that I haven't heard of before. The problems are very generally more or less all the same. And if I have heard of a new problem, I will know I will know who to call to fix it.
So that seems kind of scary for an agency owner or an entrepreneur to go, I need help, and to admit that.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And unfortunately, sometimes it's, they don't want it, a series of terrible things have to happen in the business before they will ask for help.
What are those?
People leaving.
Okay.
I had one agency where we had been speaking for a year prior, but nothing I was saying was resonating with him, until he rang me a year later and he went, 3 people have just walked out my door. And the only reason they'd done that is because they were disengaged and they couldn't see a future in their business. They couldn't see a promotion path, and they were just, the time and bandwidth, and they just started looking online for new jobs.
So
Very,
that's number one. You
yeah,
see, so is there maybe 2 others that are
yeah.
common themes?
It's where the agency owner feels outnumbered. He feels like he's outnumbered in his own business,
Mm.
and there are too many questions that are unanswered. Where there, things like, what's my promotion path? How do I get a bonus? What's my training plan? How do I book a holiday? What are my expenses? I have to go on a trip. Where do I get the company credit card? That, because the agency owner hasn't got a people manager in between or the processes, they feel like they don't want to even be in their own business. They feel outnumbered.
Mm-hmm.
And they feel like, why did I hire all these people? Why are these people asking me these questions? It's like they know what I'm like. I'm a creative person, or
Right.
all of that. So they feel like they don't belong in their own business.
So people leaving,
Yeah.
feeling outnumbered. What's the third theme you see?
So the third one then is definitely around, they know something's wrong, but they don't know what it is. They have this completely unsettled feeling, and they're going, oh, something's not right. And it could be the profitability of the business. So a client, is not profitable, but they're spending an awful lot of time on them. It's just this feeling that things aren't clicking, and they haven't identified exactly what it is, and they're feeling really unsettled.
So that's interesting. I'm relating with everything in there. So
You've gone through moments of that, right? You're
well,
going, yeah, something's not right in here, You're like,
well, it's true, and you think you got something put away and put to bed and resolved. You studied it, you implemented it, you applied it. You get that put to bed, and you like go and wash your hands, and you're going to sit down and relax a little bit. And then there's some other fire that pops up.
Yeah.
That's just the way. I don't know. That's interesting. So when you started recognize this, who specifically in your career really inspired you?
Wow. Who has inspired me? I've been so lucky all along with the different companies that I've worked with, but I always come back to, it's home. It's like my dad is an entrepreneur, and his work ethic and his sort of attitude to trying new things. Even today, I still talk to him all the time about ideas and things like that. And my mum is like, she's the supporter, she'll go on, you can do that. Go on there. Why wouldn't you try that? So dad kind of inspires me in the front, like, of what he does. And
Example, yeah.
yeah, he's like the example. Like he's just after 70, and he'll give out to me for a time. He's in his 70s, very young, and he's after taking a new role in the local football team as the chairman. And everyone's super pumped that he's been going to see that team since he was 6. So it's like a lifelong dream. It's like so cute.
That.
But he's still out mentoring and talking to people and working and giving people advice and coaching and open to new ideas. And he's always kept young. He's like, why, keep moving. And that's inspired me. And then my mom's just brilliant. She's just such a strong woman, where she'll go and do that. Of course you can do that. Why couldn't you do that? Like, they could be saying anything. They could be saying skydiving, climbing Everest. Of course you can. Off you go there. So yeah, I know it sounds quite cheesy, but that's the reality. And I've been incredibly lucky through my career. I had great experience at Dell, moved around the world, saw all of Australia, moved to Sony, had incredible experience there. Like and HubSpot was an amazing company to work for. And I've got great friends out of it and learned an awful lot. But for me, as soon as it got, I like smaller companies. Like I like to know everyone. I like that under 100 mark, because I like to know how are you? How's the wife? Hey, how are the kids going? Like I like to know that. And then once it got to like 150, I kind of felt like I didn't know who anyone was, and it was uncomfortable. So yeah, I like smaller kind of companies, so I can know something individual about everyone.
It's totally different. So what is one of your dad's famous Irish wisdom quotes that he
Oh,
says?
he's a great one. And I've quoted almost on a regular basis. So he used to be a retailer, right? So he used to have a record shop here in town, and he had different types of shops like sweet and news agents. And he uses this today. So if you can imagine, if you're ever watching like any program at all about business, right? And there's somebody's got this great idea and they're talking about a great idea. He has one line, which is brilliant. He'll listen to an idea and he'll go, and then at the very end, he'll be like, where's the till?
Where's the money? Show me the money.
How do you make, the till is the transaction of that lovely idea to a consumer actually giving you money for it. The till is his great, and he'll just, I've done it many times. I'll go in, I might go, blah, blah, I have this great idea. And he'll look at me and go, where's the till? And I have been using where's the till with a few different people. Because, you know, when you're in business, somebody will ask for advice, or they'll go, I have this great idea. And it's like, well, does it solve a problem? And who's going to pay for that, you know? But it's his own IP, and God, I love it. And we'll be watching something together, like a Dragon's Den or anything, you know, you'd see it on the television and he'll, where's the till? So yeah, that's one of my favorite ones from him.
Did that quote make it in your book?
I wonder, did it actually? I don't know. I just think I gave them a shout out at the beginning.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't think that made it in. No, I just remembered it recently because I'm hearing a lot of business ideas. So I was like, you know, and then he reminded me of that one.
So you're in Ireland now.
Yeah.
And tell me about where you are and what do you do on the weekends?
Oh, cool. I am in a place called Sligo. It's on the west coast. So this is where I grew up and couldn't wait to get out of it. And then couldn't wait to get back, because you know how Irish people are quite like that. They'll travel the world and then eventually they come home, usually because they have families. But I'm single and no kids, so I just wanted to be near here and near the family. So really lucky, my auntie found this beautiful little cottage. It's a very old farmer kind of workman cottage type thing, 10 minutes from my mum and dad's, 2 minutes from my sister's house and her husband, and my niece and my nephew. And it's just an incredible place. It's gone through some tough times because it's been it's very heavy reliant on tourism, and we had a recession here a long while ago, maybe about 10 years ago, and it hit everyone pretty hard. But it's really coming back now. There's a lot of companies are moving here. We have Overstocker here, we have Lifetiles here, we have big businesses moving here now and bringing, you know, families and people back to home, or new families and new people wanting to move to the area. They have an incredible food trail, beautiful walks when the weather's nice. It's been hailstones for the last 3 weeks, but it'll be soft, as they say, in May. And yeah, so what do I like to do is, like, the plan is to build this into a retreat. So I kind of chip away at little various things about that idea of building a retreat. I've joked that it might be for tired and burnt out digital marketing agency owners. And I'll be like, come in the door, give us your phone and your laptop, go and chill out. We'll talk later on. Go for a walk on the beach, go for a walk in the forest. And yeah, so something along those lines. I think the long term would be to do something like that. I'm a powerlifter. I have represented my country in bench, deadlift, squat, and strict curl. So I have a world record and a national record for powerlifting. And I love doing that. Yeah, took that up when I was 42, actually. So I was a late starter. So quite into it. I go through phases. Sometimes I'll take a few weeks off, but I'm never really that long off. I actually put a gym in the middle of the house because I like to work out on my own terms. I don't like to wait for other people in the gym. So yeah, I like to do that. I love to make things. I was very creative when I was a kid. Like, I would love Lego, and I know how to sew and knit and make things with my hands. My niece and I she's 11, we were making talking sticks. I had this idea through an agency, actually. An agency couple were talking to me about how difficult it was to have a marriage conversation without the business coming in the evenings.
Right.
And I remember she was very, very upset one evening because he'd come home and it was all the kids, and they were having dinner, and then after the kids went to bed, he started opening up a business discussion about her performance at work. And she burst into tears, and I thought, oh, hang on a second now, come on, we have to get some boundaries here on, you know, when is work time, you know, that you can't. And that it reminded me of this Indian tradition of a talking stick. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
You hit them with it while you're talking?
No, it's not a weapon. Where the person is allowed to talk when they're holding the stick, and the other person has to listen
Oh,
until completion, and then handing it over, and then the
yeah.
other person, and then that person goes, okay, what I'm hearing from you is, they summarize so that you can get some understanding. Um, and I was like, well, maybe that you can have the talking stick for agency time, you know, like, and then when it goes in the drawer, you're back to your marriage, you know. Or he could come in and go, look, I have something to talk about. And I was like, so yeah, I like to make stuff, that feeling of you sit back and you go, oh, I've made something. So I made a few talking sticks and I actually sent one to her. I know.
That's a great idea. So that if the agency stick is not on the table,
Yeah.
don't talk about the agency.
No, you're in a marriage, you know, we're talking about, you know, what's, but thanks for dinner, that was nice. And oh, the kids, not bringing up a feedback session like
No.
8:30 at night. No, no, no.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I know, can you imagine? I know.
No. So Irish whiskey,
Mm.
which one is your favorite?
Now, this is a funny one because I have an uncle who's an absolute expert on this, Uncle Kevin.
I
He
want to meet him.
drinks whiskey. He has a beautiful collection over the years, because he'll only have a little dram, like, you know, every now and again. So I have only recently, I went to the whiskey bar in Temple Bar. It's amazing. And I've only recently tasted a few, so I am yet to get on the whiskey bandwagon, but I kind of reckon I've got a lot of time there.
Mm-hmm.
There's just new ones opening up all the time. It's a fabulous industry here. Boutique distilleries just opening up all the time. So there's new brands coming, and yeah. So at the moment, I'm definitely a novice. I don't have I don't have the taste for it yet. What's your favorite one, Steve?
Well, so I have to confess here, you know, I'm a founding member of a Scotch club. Now, Scotch is from Scotland, but the truth
Mm.
is, Irish whiskey I like even more than I do Scotch. And
Ooh.
so there's one called, and you're going to have to help me pronounce it correctly. And it's, I say Tullamore Dew, but sometimes I've heard
Tullamore. Yeah,
Tullamore.
Tullamore
Yeah,
Dew. Yeah.
Tullamore Dew is delicious and it's amazing. Way better than.
Oh, that's so funny. Do you know Tullamore Dew? Tullamore Dew is like the Fosters for Australia. So Fosters, right? People do not drink Fosters, but it's their biggest export, okay?
Yeah,
Tullamore Dew to be a bit like that. It'd be
the
like,
same way. Yeah,
we wouldn't drink it here, but we'll send loads out the country.
right.
But
We'll
everyone
send
else
it to
seems to love
Texas.
it, but we don't drink it here. Yeah,
No, it's
it's huge. I know that's a huge one. That's very you'd rarely see it here for some reason. You know, it's the Fosters.
so you were able to spend a little bit of time in Austin because of Dell. Is that correct?
No, because I went to see Digital Marketer.
Okay.
Yeah, just a few months ago, actually. I think it was May. I was there. The Digital Marketer community, incredible community, incredible education, such a fun family vibe from them. It's incredible. And yeah, I had a trip to Boston. I had to be at a training course, and I said, hey, I'll scoot on down to Austin, and loved it.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it. What a vibe, and what a colorful place, what a friendly place. I had a great, I think I was there for like 4 or 5 days, maybe even longer.
Isn't it weird how you have these little tech hubs, and so you've got one that's exploding there close
Mm.
by you. What do you think the things that need to be present for a tech hub to thrive like that?
So the interesting one for now is like we're building our infrastructure, so the road isn't the best. It's 3 hours from Dublin, but a lot of people, we don't drive a lot here because the roads aren't great. A 3 hour drive in the States or Australia is nothing, you know. But our roads aren't particularly. We don't have a lot of motorways because it's a very small country, so they're building that. What I'm seeing is because of the rise of remote work, the distributed workforce,
Mm-hmm.
as long as the small city has, you know, a nice place to eat, some hobbies that you can do. Like really, there's an island off the coast of Ireland, Arran Island, like, and there's digital islands now, right? Because these places had been evacuated. You know, they had nobody living on them, and now they're building them back. So we've incredible internet here. I'm on 70 megabits through satellite with Imagine. So as long as the internet, the culture, the understanding that people are going to work, even if they're not in the office. And these companies that are coming, they're not going to be building 1,000. They're not Google. And they're quite comfortable saying that. You know, they might hit 100 people max. But they understand that. And they know that that's okay too, to have like a small to medium sized company here. Standard of living here for anyone who's in the west of Ireland, like there's no traffic. You don't have to drop the kids off super early in the morning. I take my niece and nephew to school and creche like down the road, and there's no traffic lights. It's like we pass the mountain, we see tractors and cows and sheep, and every single drive I go, do you think you'd see this in Dublin? No, you wouldn't. And they are rolling their eyes now going, oh my God, will you please stop saying this line? So I think we grew up here and we saw the benefit of that. You know, the kids are extremely like chilled and relaxed, and they're having a childhood. They're not stressed and tired, you know, which city life is kind of causing. You can see that, and the stress and angst on parents, you know. I see a lot of it going on in Dublin. It's just quite, our big cities, quite stressful. So here, yeah, it's exciting times. We have an amazing Irish Development Association. As two guys, John Nugent and Alan Mulrooney, are just going around getting companies to come and have a look at Sligo, take them for a round of golf, take them up the mountain, take them out for pints, and sign them up and say, come on, you need to move here now. So they're doing a great job.
So the type of people that they're hiring for these companies, are they, yeah, talk to me about, you know, the folks that come and work there. Are they being imported as well, or
a lot of returnees, you know, like me. I had to, you know, I went away and then I came back. But a lot of people who want to come home, who have maybe just got married, just had the first kid, and want to be near their families, or people who are just going, this is not worth the stress of, you know, being up at 6, putting the child in childcare at 7 in the morning, you know, and spending enormous amounts of money for a stranger to look after your kids, you know, long hours in the office. So they're giving up on the rat race. They're just like, this isn't worth it. So generally, like late 20s, early 30s, people who are ready for the next phase of their lives. The homes are affordable. There's no traffic as such, you know, and they maybe they want to be near their families, or they want to be in a community that understands what they're going to, because they can then connect and network with other people like that.
how nice to be able to go back to where you're
I
from, your
know.
family, your culture,
No,
and
no.
there be opportunities of these companies
Yeah.
that would
Yeah.
be awesome.
Historically, that has now, you know, never been the case. Like, I've been talking to people recently who are back from London. You know, there's big Brexit going on over there and it's not fun. So, and they're sitting going, I had no idea I was going to be able to come home and have a great job and be super happy, but also be comfortable and have lots of time. And, you know, I can go back and do the things that I love to do, you know. So it's amazing. And it's happening all over Ireland. It's not just Sligo, but all over Ireland. So it's great.
So, so you've had some changes in the past couple of years of what you were doing, what you learned, what you started. What kind of, obviously, you're normal. You had some regrets, or you have some things that maybe you would have done different. You want to share anything with us?
Yeah, it's interesting with the regrets, because I actually I have written about this. I'm on my Instagram account. I've got an Instagram, just like I've got one for the business, obviously, and then I have one for me. And I really genuinely do not accept having regrets, because my attitude to life is that we are all like big, thick fishing ropes.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think of a fishing rope, it's made up of lots of little strands that are wrapped into other ropes that then are wrapped into it. So if you take a regret and you go, yeah, I don't really like that part of my life, I don't like that story, or I don't like that person or that relationship or that failed business, and you start to pull that thread out, you weaken the whole structure of the fishing rope. You can't pick and choose. So you've got to weave. For me, I feel like I just got to weave in the bad times with the good times, because that's all making me who I am today. And I do, love who I am today, thankfully.
Yeah.
And I feel, and I have to accept that. But yeah, that probably the biggest one was actually my own agency, which fires me up every day. I did not see the warning signs on my own business, which led to its failure. And there was a lot of fallout from that, lost relationships, lost money, but mainly relationships. The money we can always make again. And it was things that I didn't pay attention to that I am hyper vigilant of now in an agency. And also behavior. I can, like you just identified there, I can read things because I've been through that. Before I released my book, I nearly didn't. I had that whole, who am I? I've had a failed agency. I shouldn't be doing this. I'm not going to write this. And I had a friend sit me down and go, who are you not to write this? You have to. This is going to help people. And so I acknowledged at the beginning of the book and just going, yeah, I've made a mistake. I've made a lot of mistakes, but I want to work and help people so that they do not make these mistakes. I can prevent them and I can undo them now. So yeah, my fishing rope analogy, I've been sharing it a lot recently, actually, with people who sort of talk to me about, oh, I really regret that. And I'm like, no, it's part of you now. Wrap more good things around it and make you even stronger.
That's funny you say fishing rope. Is that because your experience of the coast and fishing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not actually, I have done fishing in the past. God, I loved it. I had great crack. I've been deep sea fishing. I cooked to Ireland once. I've been like, I do love fishing. But it's too cold. Everything is too cold here. I was fishing in Australia and New Zealand, but everything's too cold here for me. But there's a great fishing company called Ewing's, and they fish, and I definitely will go out. I'll probably bring niece or nephew out for a trip. But yeah, it's probably because I really do not feel comfortable being any distance from the sea. I love being near the sea. I can visit other inland places, but I like to live beside the sea. So yeah, I don't know. The fishing one just came out one day.
No, it's great that you should have that fishing experience in your retreat, your agency owner retreat.
Oh yeah, that'll be part of it. It'll be like, go out there, get out there, out to the wild sea and the wild, wild Atlantic, and consider your thoughts. Oh, there'll be so many things to do. It'll be great fun.
So, what are you looking forward to this year?
This year, the podcast has really taken off, and this wonderful opportunity to share a little bit more about that. Yeah, we've got sponsors in the podcast. It's also opening up some new opportunities for me. I really realized that I do love talking to people, and I love asking them questions and sharing their stories. I'm getting some lovely feedback from people who are listened and people who've been on the show. And actually, what's happened, I kind of run things quite intuitively. I've had a lot of people ask me, how did I do my podcast? And so actually coming soon, myself and another business colleague of mine, Max Trailer, are launching our own business podcast course. So we're actually going to teach companies how to generate revenue through business podcasting. We've called it Revcasters.
Oh, cool. That's great.
Yeah, so I love training. I love teaching people. I've made my own online course, and I love explaining things. And I just kept getting all those. Hey, teach us about it. Can you tell me about the podcast? And we designed a course, and we're going to launch that in a couple of weeks' time.
I love that. Revcasters.
Yes, so that's what I'm excited about. What else am I excited about? Personally, at the moment, I'm not really competing anymore. I need to work on my numbers for competitions. I'm a bit of a one-trick pony. my squat, my deadlift are I'm a very tall person, and I need to spend a bit more time working on those muscles. I'm looking forward to going to Hartford, Connecticut in a few weeks' time for Digital Sales and Marketing World. I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's loads on. I'm excited about the weather getting warmer. I spent 10 weeks in Cape Town, and it really did mess with my temperature, my thermometer, because now I'm frozen.
You need exposure to some warm sun.
Yes, there is definitely more sun in my future. But yeah, I'm pretty simple. I'm like, just generally feel like I love what I do, and just love working with agencies and helping them have better businesses.
Well, tell me more about your book. Recently I published a book as well. So
Yeah.
I'm relating with that path that you go down. So you had the imposter syndrome. You went through that, but talk to us as agency owners why the book process is valuable.
Well, it helps you solidify your thoughts, to like, what do you actually do? And for me, it's a step-by-step process. So, and it's an accessible way for somebody to get started with learning more about how to run a better business. So for me, I had been working for years with hundreds of agencies. I had started writing my own methodology. Then I was working with Growit. And the book is just a great way for somebody I've also recorded it in Audible as well. It's a great way to start, to go, okay, I can do this without having to hire the consultant directly. They can actually get started. And I love when I work with somebody who goes, right, I've read the book and I tried this and this, but now I need some more help getting here. And we can really get them results a lot quicker. You probably find that yourself. It's giving someone a feel for you've got some, see if they're motivated to do something. And I can recommend it to everyone, instead of going, oh, I'd love to work with hundreds of people. Reality is one-on-one. I can only work with a few at a time, but I can positively impact thousands through the book, through the digital course, through the Audible, through the podcast.
It's a great business model. So for those of us that may not know what the name of your book is or where we can find it, tell us a little bit about that.
It's a happy, healthy digital agency. And it's on Amazon and Audible all around. So it goes through a whole series of where we look at people. What we've noticed is there's 6 pillars. And inside those pillars, what agencies have, they have strategies inside of all of those 6 pillars that make a successful agency. So we look at the people, strategy of the business, the growth, which is all the financials, services team, sales and marketing. And each one of those, there's like 4 or 5 things. If you do those things, you will have a very solid business to take in whatever direction you want to go. I think a lot of agency owners, they're so passionate about their business and so emotionally charged about it. They forget that it's a business and that it's a machine. And they need to, detach from it sometimes to go, what do I want to do? Why am I working in there 5 days a week? Maybe I should be working in it 2 days a week so that I can go off and go fishing or sailing, or go and work in a university for 3 days a week. Like, they get so involved in it that it's like, no, hang on, maybe the best thing you can do right now is actually not work in the business anymore. And that's kind of exciting for me to help them understand that.
So I think we're coming to probably just have another question or so. We're wrapping up, but so
if anyone is still here, I love you so much. Thank you for hanging on for all of this on the show.
Yeah, I love this. I'm glad that you were open to doing this, and this has been excellent. So what's your top piece of advice for folks that are listening or that you want everybody to know?
Well, the 2 kind of big things, it's like what I'm really seeing right now is if you're an agency of like 10, 12 people, a lot of agency owners keep hanging on to the sales role. Mm-hmm. You got to let go of the sales role. At the very least, you need to afford a BDR, a business development rep, somebody to do all the outreach and the actual day-to-day, 50 emails, 20 calls, setting up meetings. The very grunt work of a sales process cannot be done by an agency owner, because there'll always be something more important to do than that. maybe they're the closer. But at the very least, the number one thing is get out of that business development role as quickly as possible. And then if you've got more than 10 pairs of eyeballs looking at you in the office, you should not be managing those as you need a people manager to run the people in your business, to ask them questions like, how are you? How are things? And want to hear the answer. How's things at home? Not tick the box. Oh, I asked everyone how they are. No, you didn't. So a people manager is somebody who really understands and can deal with the issues and move the business along. Not get frustrated by, oh my God, they keep having these problems. Instead, a people manager and a business development. I think those are the first two things that once you're above that 10, 12 size, get them in and start thinking about what are you really, really good at and do more of that.
So if I'm a agency owner
Mm-hmm.
and I've been listening to this conversation and I'm feeling this conviction that I should at least talk to you, or I'm still scared, I don't want to make a commitment, but I got to admit that I need help, number one, and then I got to ask someone to help tell us how maybe we can start at the very first part there with you.
Yeah, so the first thing I'll say is we have a health check on our website that, for absolutely no obligation at all, I can get you started and at least identify that feeling of, I know something's wrong, but I'm not quite sure. Just fill in the health check form and I will have a conversation with you and I will give you some recommendations and things to do. And that can be the end of it. You can be off on your merry way, at least getting some more sleep and identifying what you need to fix and where you can start. And look, if you're, I don't know if you heard that there's a podcast we did recently with Dan, the agency man. He's an agency coach and has the Agency Collective in the UK. Mm-hmm. And Dan lost a couple of friends last year in the agency community because they didn't talk. And, for me, it's like, that's shocking. At the end of the day, it is a business and there's plenty of solutions, there's plenty of community, and there's plenty of ways out. There's plenty of ways to fix things. So I would really, in this age of mental health, please don't bottle it up. I don't make any judgments of people. I will listen and I'll move you forward. And it can be for nothing at all, or you can have me coming in and do it. But for me, the big thing is, talk to someone, talk to anyone. If you go on to we've got Agency Life website, there's a whole list of, I list all the coaches that are out there. So maybe I'm not the person, and that's fine too, but please get a mentor, please get someone to talk to, because doing it all on your own, it's not the way forward.
Okay, I'm convicted, and I'm sure others are that have been listening. So if they come and sign up and have a little conversation with you, do they maybe get a copy of your book or an agency stick? What do they get?
Yeah, like I'll give them the list of the recommendations of what they can do next and a variety of different ways to do that. So, and I have a whole resources page. I generally give people how-to videos. Once I identify what are the top 5 things that they need to fix, I'll give them a video and I'll get them on their way and off they can go. So as long as I hear someone they had a problem, they can fix it and they can move it on. I have plenty of ways to get them started on that.
So this has been fun and I've really enjoyed it, and I hope others that listen to it will get the same thing. If someone does want to reach you or contact you, most know where to go, but tell those who don't.
Yeah, so growitgroup.com is the website, and you'll see everything that's on there, all the different ways of chat and everything, where you can just email me, Clodagh@growitgroup.com, and let's get the conversation started and get those mistakes, prevent some and undo some in your agency. Thank you so much, Steve, for doing this with me. It's so lovely to be on the other side of my own podcast.
Isn't that great? I had fun. Thank you for letting me do this.
Incredible. I'll see everyone on the next episode of Agency Life as I sign off. Thank you, Steve.
Bye. You can have control back.
I've got it back now.